Hello there, and welcome to another Build the Terminator. Parts 7 and 8. We're not even up to 10 yet. But, well, I'm not up to 10 yet. I know most other people are. But in this one, we are working on, I'm not sure what, in that part, but it's fairly obvious what we're going to be working on in part 8 from that. It's the hand, of course. Let's see what's in 7. Oh, it's components for the upper arm and head motor. That's kind of a random two things to be doing in the one part, but nevertheless, I must admit, I'm liking the fact that we're doing tiny little baby steps at a time, but I've got a horrible feeling that it's going to speed up any part soon, and I'll be doing 4 pages worth of stuff in the one magazine. But until then, we get very little to do, which I'm happy with, because I like taking it nice and slowly. So, let's begin. Okay, the first part is interesting, as ever, because it came like that in the pack, and you have to take the black bit, made of plastic, out of there, and then you have to glue these around the holes, not through the middle, and then we have to stick it back in there again, take stuff apart, put it back together again, 1 step forward, 1 step back. This silver disc is making the camera lighting go crazy. Look at that. And there's no one doing it now. Typical. Anyway, that's that piece glued in. As you can see, I've only just managed to avoid the glue going in the holes there, but I'm happy enough with that, except that I've got a bit of glue on the top there, so it looks slightly battle damaged. Let's call it that. It's certainly stuck in there very nicely. And next they want you to test fit this piece onto the edge of this piece. And I can see it does indeed fit very nicely onto metal. Plastic onto metal. Something you're going to hear me complain about quite often in the future. But it does look good. I just worry that being made of plastic, if that's going to be on the edge of the model, I'm assuming, then there's a very real danger you could just scrape away the silver and you'd be left with rubbish looking white plastic, which is probably the colour of the plastic under there. All the bits on the edge, in my opinion, should all be metal, because the edge is what's going to take the knock. It doesn't matter if it's on the inside, but there we go. It's what's on the outside that counts, people. Oh, they want you to glue around the outside edge of that, which is going to be quite tricky and interesting. I just have this foreboding feeling that glue is going to spill right over the edge, because there is no lip on this edge. Let's give this a go. Okay, that should be secure on there now. I had to press one side and then realised the other side was a bit floppy, so I had to press that for a bit longer. Hopefully that should hold, but I mean, you're going to have to press the other side because, surprisingly enough, plastic is quite flexible. It does look quite good. It does definitely look all metal. That part is good. It's just knowing which parts to really avoid knocking against stuff and scraping against stuff, because that paint job could very easily scratch off. The next part, we're dealing with these upper arm parts, which of course they are. I mean, it's so obvious. And we're putting in this bit onto that bit, and then we're screwing this in. Why couldn't we have screwed the last bit in? That would have been really nice. Screw those in. To think I've probably got to do this all over again for the other side. Not greatly looking forward to that, but at least Terminators only have 2 arms. All screwed in. Look at that. They're nicely sunken in there like they're supposed to be. That's very solid. Plastic with a little bit of metal, screwing it together. But there we go. I don't know what that is, but it looks quite cool. Alright, next we're taking these 2 random pieces of plastic and we're attaching, with it that way round, we're attaching this bit this way round and screwing through those 2 holes you can see. This is one of those what the hell have I just made moments, of which there will be many. Let me screw this into place. I need 2 of the silver screws for that, then we'll be done. The head motor joint, as they call it, is now finished. That could be anything for all I know. That could be a Terminator coat hanger. Anyway, apparently that's correct. And that brings us to the end of 7, but with one slight problem. It says, check your pieces against the photos, and once you're happy, store them away safely. Well, I'm not that happy, because that does not look remotely like that. That's clearly got some black plastic or rubber ring around it. Okay, I can't quite believe this, but the whole palm is plastic. That's not cool, in my opinion. That really should be metal. It still looks good, but again, best not scrape this against anything, because then it will look rubbish permanently. Anyway, we're dealing with a couple of tiny pieces which are the tip of the thumb, and this piece here, which there seems to be only one piece like this, because it's got a little bit sticking at the end, and this similar looking piece hasn't. So I'm taking it to be this piece. So you're basically sticking it on the end of that. Bosh. All done. Okay, it's a little bit hard to explain this bit without going crazy, trying to think of names for all the bits. Basically, just trying to scrape the glue off my fingers there. You're putting the biggest bit into the top, and once you've got this bit underneath, I can barely show you this through my big fat fingers. You're basically putting each bit on top of the holes and pushing the big bits in the top, and the little pin bits, which you can probably not see, up through the bottom, because basically the fat pins have a hole in them which meets the sticky out bit in the smaller pins, if that makes sense. I have to admit, this is genius. It holds really nicely and it moves without any glue and any screws. I have glued the tip on the end, which is why I was scraping glue off my fingers, and I really hope that glue is not going to take any of the silver paint off the plastic. Just have to keep my fingers crossed on that one. I'll put too much on this one, I think, so now I know I'll put less on the others. So, fingers all gluey, let's do the next bit. There it is, the thumb is complete. I'm doing this the next night because my battery ran out completely last night, so that's all in there. The really thin pins, or nails, or whatever you want to call them, they are swapped round, so the thin ones at the top there and at the bottom there, which seems to work out quite well. And I apologise if I was only up to this bit, the first half last night, and now I've come back and suddenly shown you the whole thing, but I hope that you can see where each bit goes. And just to compensate, I'm now going to recreate with this Terminator thumb a special famous scene in Terminator 2. Did you enjoy that? I thought not, but I thought I'd throw it in anyway. Now I've got to go and find the other finger so that we can attach this lovely thumb here to the... Okay, another cut, because there's one more piece. You will need the last thin pin, which is going, let me check this, going underneath this time. So yeah, it goes underneath, on top, underneath, right at the end. And you're going to need to make sure that you've got the little sticking out tiny little pin there, which connects as a guide into the palm. So let me go and find my finger, which is some of the weirdest nonsense I'm coming out with during this build of this model, but there we go. I found my finger, everyone, but one slight issue. Why is the thumb as long as the finger? Because, correct me if I'm wrong people, but your thumb is a little bit shorter than most of your fingers. Maybe there's a reason for this, as yet undiscovered. Okay, find your right palm. Found it. Okay, I won't do that joke again. and you are taking the thumb that you've just made and you're putting it, see where that little tiny hole is that I can't get to show up on the camera, and you need to put the little tiny pin on the top of that bit into there like so, and that allegedly keeps this steady, or helps keep it steady, as they say in a very disclaimer type way, while you screw in from the bottom silver screw. They do mention what kind of screw it is, but right now I've only got one single type of screw, I think, that's silver. Yes, so it's going to be one of those. Let me tell you something, that pin does not help at all, because I was so focused on getting the little tiny pin in there that I kept missing the right angle of the screw. As a result, as you can see, it's loose, which is quite annoying. I'm going to leave it like that for now and then come back to it and try and tighten it up later, because it's probably supposed to be solid tight on there, but I cannot get that on right now or get it in. And I'm in danger of shredding that screw as well. Not a good idea. But anyway, the last part is putting the index finger on, and for this you need the last big fat pin in the top and the little tiny pin through the bottom. So let me try and fix this on, and there we have it, finger on. And I've also glued the tip of the finger on. I find it a bit bad that they've just left you to discover that you will need to glue the tips on. I don't know who designing this saw the tip going on. I fiddled around with it for a bit and just thought, no, just don't mention that bit. It's kind of important when the tips of all the fingers and the thumbs just fall off. But anyway, that takes us to the end of 8. Going to go back when I'm feeling calm enough and strong enough to try and wedge that screw in there, because that's being really annoying. That pin did not help at all. Something you have to do, but there you go. Thumb and finger. And when I was holding it earlier, I know I made it look really awkward, but I made it look a lot more awkward than it actually is. It's quite simple once you realise what they're aiming for. So there we go. I think I'm going to clamp those two pins down again, because they might have worked their way loose. I'm not sure if anyone's gluing the pins. Let me know what you're doing. That said, that is the end of part 7 and 8. So, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your comments. Leave any questions you have, or any comments, and I will see you next time.